welcome back to another episode of Ask Someone Else with yours truly, Kaz from Property by Kazi. And today we're going to be joined by D. Ludlow, the founder of the 5 a.m. Club. A little bit about him. He's been talking about like investments, buying businesses, the best investment opportunities for a long time. So without ado, let me get him in. I've had a crazy busy week this week, so I'm on the move again. I'm in Dartford today, so I'm sneakily filming from their breakout area / kitchen, because I had to leave the office where I was working from today to get this in. But we're committed. I've added, I can see that these in it. Let me send him a request.
Yo.
How you doing, brother? You all right?
All good, bro. How about you?
I'm not too bad.
Good.
Too bad. Where in the world are you at the moment?
Oh, in Wales at the moment, mate.
Bro, this is what I'm saying. I think I've spoken to you 3 times, and I think you've been in like Dubai, America, and now Wales.
Yeah, I'm back here for a little bit, but hopefully not too long.
Are you from Wales?
Yeah.
Do you know that I'm a quarter Welsh?
Really?
Yeah. So yeah. Also, I'm in a room with PIR sensors. That's going to be me today, just constantly sitting up to turn the lights back on. Yeah. Okay. Where was you from?
Newport?
Yeah. I know Newport.
Yeah, right, not far.
I've seen. Who do I see? There's Dungard's properties. I know.
Oh, yeah, they're from Caerphilly, I think. A bit further
And then I
out.
know I've got a friend of mine, Luke's properties. He's not from Wales, but I know he invests in HMOs and some rent-to-rent stuff over in Wales as well.
Yeah.
It's all going off. It's all going off over there.
No deals in Wales.
Yeah, that's what all the Welsh people are telling the Londoners, so we stay away. There's like, nah, just stay on your side. Don't come across that bridge.
Yes, because you lot come down here, you get like a 3-bed house for the price of like a shed in London. So
barely a parking space. You'd be lucky to get a shed. Shed's a rich man's game.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's good to see you on. Good to have you back in the UK. So for those that don't know you or are not familiar with you, can we get a little bit of information about what you do?
Yeah, so I host the 5 a.m. Club firstly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of an accident. Started in the start of lockdown, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite like, I like networking, like traveling.
Yeah.
And then when we sort of come to a bit of a standstill, I started to jump on twice a week. A few of my friends, and then as you know with social media, people started sharing it, and then people joined. Too many was joining the call, so we started asking people, look, do you want to do a little presentation? And then it was good because I seen you posting about sort of courses a few weeks ago, and I found that I got
abused by the internet. I'm not posting about courses every week.
yeah, but like with the courses, right? So I've invest in loads of courses over the years, right? And I always find that they stack the value on the front end, and then the aftercare is terrible, right? That's what I found personally. I did it with some like decent companies as well, and so I was like, look, now people are joining this. Why don't we create something? Get people like yourself on there, and other people who are actually doing stuff, like actively doing stuff, and then they can speak once a week, and then give their sort of value to everybody, and it worked quite well. We've seen a lot of people sort of grow through it, so that was the sort of plan. So that's the sort of what I do as a bit of a hobby. I run a mastermind group too, which is just predominantly focused on investing, whereas the 5 a.m. Club is more focused on the speaker. Mine's more focused on what we're doing, business buying and crypto mainly. But we have our people come in and talk about how to utilize your SaaS with property and different things like that as well. So, but my main focus at the moment is making the most of sort of what we can do within crypto, and sort of the whole blockchain space fascinates me. I've been sort of really fascinated by it for a long time, but my main focus is business buying right now. Okay. But my background's property, so that's where I was heavily focused in property just before COVID. So yeah.
There's a lot there to unpack. So for those that are interested in one of the 7 different book buddies involved in, definitely make sure we're only going to be answering questions where you use the question box. If you do have any questions for both of us, make sure that you put them in there. While people sort of start to think about what it is, I think I've got a couple of questions for you. So I'm trying to think, shall I start with property? Let me start about property. Do you do stuff with NFTs as well? Did I see? I can't remember. Or was that?
Nah, not really. No,
Yeah,
that's not
I
me.
don't. I'll be serious. I don't really understand any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I invested a bit in crypto just because I
Mm,
kind of not that I really understood that much. Like I can't say I overly understand the technical side of things, but I did understand the premise of, like that big institutions are investing quite heavily in it, even if like, it's only 1 to 3% and things like that of their total overall investment proposal. Thought,
mm,
a lot of the time, like in property, we don't have the budget to go and set out like a massive marketing team
mm.
to work out where the next hot area is. But what we can do is see the people that do have those types of budgets and see where they're investing and sort of copy them. So if I'm seeing, okay, you know what, these big firms are investing, 1 to 4% of their overall investment portfolio. Why would I maybe not replicate the same? Because worst case scenario, see my PRR lights, they're on like a 2 minute timer. I'm going to keep going dark. But yeah, sort of worst case scenario means that if it does go quote unquote to the moon, then I'm not left behind.
Mm.
But is yours more longer term or short term, or or is it a mixture between the two, or what's your focus?
Yeah, mainly mixture between the two. So one, the fact that we have these 4 year cycles, whether they're going to continue to be 4 year cycles, who knows, right? This one is going to be very different because of the institutional adoption and the sort of asset allocation with those sort of companies. A lot of mainstream adoption overall, not just sort of institutions. So I want to sort of make the most out of this cycle, however, if it's extended cycle or whatever, but then also a long term as well, where, I'm fascinated by blockchain technology. So it's something that I want to be involved in. I do a lot of research around sort of different companies, because I know people just like look at it and be like, I want to buy this token, or I own this coin or token. Realistically, these are just companies, right? Just like you go and buy a stock. Yes, we can't analyze them like we would analyze a company's fundamentals, etc. But we can still analyze them and look at the active development, look at the people involved, any sort of investors that we might know that invest in the project. So I'm also looking at it from a long-term point of view as well. Now, because the market's so volatile and it's like it's very focused on leverage, especially in Asia. Because it's so volatile, then with crypto, the earlier you can take your money off the table and play with house's money, the better. A lot of people sort of have this mindset of, I'm just going to sell at the top and then buy back at the bottom, right? Well, yeah, I wish we could all do that, right?
That's great.
And
That's great if you got foresight or a crystal ball of some
yeah,
sort,
yeah,
where you can see the future. Because where do you like until you're at the top and can look over the edge and see it going down? You don't know you're at the top.
nah,
You just assume
exactly.
it's going to keep going up. I mean,
Exactly, and like
yeah.
all we can do is work off probability. So that's the one sort of aspect of it. But yes, it's sort of making sure that you are exposed to the projects that you feel that will do well over time, pretty much. So that's something that I'm really focused on within crypto. So it's more of a mid and to long term sort of play for me. Yeah.
I wish I wasn't on my phone. I wish I could tell you like the stuff, because I can't remember how I invested in stuff. By investing in stuff I like the sound of. And then
Yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff that people told me, obviously, like, so the stuff that, like, like the Ethereums and the whatevers and the stuff that people kind of, but then there's some stuff that I just like the idea of. So have you heard of something called audio?
No.
The audio is like, it's something about like being able to kind of like decentralize like the way artists are paid effectively.
Right. Okay.
But like I bought it because I like the idea of that, because I have like
Yeah.
little stuff that I do in music. Like I'm not a musician, but just like
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in case anyone asks me to rap at any point. But like little investments I've made in music and artists, etc. And I like just the idea of kind of creative freedom for the creators. But then recently they partnered with it wasn't TikTok, but it was somebody else. Like, and it was basically say it kind of like had a massive boost, and I was like, okay. I was like, so you just see these things and like, I'm mad smart. I'm basically the crypto guy now. But then
Yeah.
loads of other ones went down. So it's a balance. But I think I kind of like people helped me and they said, oh yeah, just invest in these in the long term. So I don't look at it as if like, oh, I'm chasing it. And when I see it go up by
Yeah.
a couple of thousand, I'm like, oh yeah, it's time to make a move, because the transactional costs are also quite high at the moment. So by the time you're more from my understanding, sort of like buying and selling and buying back in, and sometimes your profits, if you're not doing it on like a large scale, can maybe be eroded quite a
Yeah,
little bit.
and the content creation stuff is fascinating because we're seeing this sort of transition. So we've seen Tory Lanez released an NFT album, went platinum in 57 seconds from selling an NFT album, right? We've seen Travis Scott perform live in Fortnite to like 12 million people. So when you look at someone like, let's say Tory Lanez, for instance, like when now Facebook are building out the metaverse and everything that's going to come with it, with virtual worlds and NFTs, tokenizing pretty much everything. Imagine somebody like Travis Scott, Tory Lanez, they can host an event, right, inside the metaverse, and you can have 100 million people pay a fee to watch you live inside the metaverse. Now, how many people can you fit in Madison Square Garden, right, or Staples Center, compared to what you can do inside a virtual world? And it's that virtual experience, and that's why I think Facebook's so heavily invested in VR and AR, because of the world we're going into. It also opens doors, not just the tokenization of NFTs, because most people think about the tokenization of the world, I think just NFTs, but just thinking about pixelated photos and pictures of penguins and apes, but there's so much more to it. You know, tokenizing real estate, for one, there's already companies doing it in the States and the UK. Just the tokenization of things that are quick wins for me, which makes sense, tokenizing or creating an NFT for like a ticket to an event. So you don't have no scammers outside football stadiums anymore, or concerts.
And I've seen some combination stuff between NFTs and real estate that look amazing. So it was this guy I met at an event through Tej, actually. You know Tej, right?
Yeah.
Can't remember his name. I need to remember it. I've told this story like 3 times and never given him credit, and it's his story. But he bought a wall at auction, like an advertising wall in Chelsea, like big wall, and obviously, like, I don't know, it's worth like £50,000 or something, because of the value of the adverts you can have on it, and you get paid like £6,000 a year from adverts. But his idea was effectively get a big artist to paint like a mural, like commemorating like Chelsea's win of the Champions League, and effectively sell each individual brick as part of the mural as an NFT. And then you own a piece of this art and history and whatever. And it was like a sick idea. I think he's changed it now, and I don't think it's going to be for Chelsea. It's just going to be a general piece of art. But that kind of idea of combining like something tangible with a non-tangible, and just property and / NFT was, I think there's going to be a lot of creative deals that are done out there.
Oh yeah, and I think that the thing with tokenizing property is it gives you an opportunity to diversify your portfolio globally with just being online. So you could potentially buy, for argument's sake, let's say the Burj Khalifa yielded whatever it yields, and whatever amount of sort of profit you can cash flow you can get from the Burj Khalifa, from the offices and the apartments. You could have a piece of the Burj Khalifa, piece of Goldman Sachs building in London, piece of something in New York, and you can buy just tokens. So you could tokenize one of your properties now, right? A HMO, let's say your cash flows $2-3 grand a month. You could sell parts of your cash flow to different people through tokens. You can tokenize it. Now, I think we're not there yet, you know, with the smart contracts. Like, it makes sense to link all this onto sort of the blockchain and through smart contracts, because at the moment it's a bit of a headache, you know, government taking their taxes, this over here, the deeds. It makes sense to just automate the whole thing, but we are quite far away from it. But there's a company called Treehouse in the UK that are already working on tokenization of property, and then there's one called Realty in, I think, Chicago. They're working on it. You can already, what's that?
No, because I think Treehouse, because you know, sometimes, I don't know if you get people message you out of the blue, and somebody messaged me. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it was through Treehouse, but I hadn't heard of them. So I'm going to go back to them now, because they spoke to me about doing some branding stuff with them about the whole process or what have you. And I just sometimes read stuff and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think it's a scam.
Yeah. Well, you don't know on Insta anymore.
So I'm going to go back to them and find out. But do you know what? I think that's really good. Because you'll know as well from your background in starting in property, one of the main issues for me and for a lot of people is to get started in property. You know, you need a lot of the time, you do need a lot of money in terms of buying assets. And so making property investment more accessible from an earlier stage has kind of been one of my go-to calls to actions of something that I'd like to not solve, but be part of a solution. And so, like, initially from where we currently are, you know, crowdfunding is a really good idea, because it means that people can invest in a portion of a deal, and maybe similar to the way Trading 212. I don't know what an Amazon, like one share in Amazon is right now, but I just imagine something's like a couple of like £20,000. You can't buy a share, but you can buy a percentage of a share. So you can be an Amazon investor and you can be along for the ride without having to have crazy amounts of money. And I think that would be great in property. Like you said, if property was kind of like, if you could buy tokens in different deals, if you were doing a flip somewhere in Wales, we had, I don't know, Samuel Leeds is buying a castle in Scotland, we've got Tej is buying a block of flats over here, and Anthony Laville is doing like 200 units in Birmingham, but you're part of all these deals. You're one, it means that if the deals go great, you can make your money work harder for you and you can be investing at the same time that you're saving until you are able to do things by yourself. But two, it means it allows for diversification and people that are maybe not that financially well off to get involved in investment at an earlier stage and benefit from property investment.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that you sort of, because of the sort of tokenized world we're going into, it opens doors for everything. So, you know, even like for influencers, like you mentioned, and sort of content creators, it makes sense for them to tokenize themselves as well. And when you start looking at the metaverse and the way it's going to be put together through advertisement, like look at Facebook, right? Their biggest source of revenue is advertisement, right? Facebook ads. Now, the fact they're all in on the metaverse. Now imagine they could mirror the world as we know it, or they could create their own sort of world as they know, or individual worlds. Now let's say they mirror the world that we know it, and let's say you own the big building in Times Square, one of the big buildings with all the advertisement boards on, right? Now imagine you own it in the metaverse too. Now, because of have you seen the new Ray-Bans that Facebook have made? So like they're like AR glasses, but they partner with Ray-Ban. So they're called Stories, I think, Ray-Ban Stories. So
This is what happens when you get up at 5 a.m. You know so much stuff. You know so much stuff.
Yeah. So these basically, because of AR, augmented reality, that they're sort of working on, you can flick in between virtual and real world. So you can walk down the street, and if people decide to spend more time in the virtual world to the real world, which most people probably will, then that advertising space is going to could be worth more inside a virtual world that isn't actually tangible than it is the actual tangible version in the real world. It's crazy. So advertising space is going to continue to grow and be, but can you imagine you've now bought a HMO in London, right, and it's worth whatever, you know, say, I don't know, 1.2 million. Can you imagine that specific building or house maybe being worth more inside a virtual world, just because in the virtual world it could be a hotspot for advertisement, and then you're selling the space. It's crazy how all this ties together, and you're unlocking a completely new world. Now, we've already seen it with AR, Pokemon Go. Like, I know I've seen some article before, I'm not sure if anyone actually died, but they was chasing these Pokemon through their phone that didn't really exist, but they're in the phone, running out into the middle of the road. And, you know, this is the sort of world we're going to be tying and merging these two worlds together. And just to how we do it now, we're online, right? And we care what we sort of perceive ourselves as online to people we don't even know, right? We actually care what we look like to people all around the world, and some that we've never met. So can you imagine now being inside a virtual world and having an avatar that you may prefer to spend more time in the virtual world with your avatar, and then you care what you look like, so you don't mind going and spending 500-600 quid on a Gucci hat that is just inside the virtual world, or a Louis Vuitton bag, or whatever it is. And then people start buying all these different items that are just tokenized in NFTs. We're already seeing it in Fortnite and all these different games already. I'm not a gamer personally, but I see all these kids spending all this money on, you know, different skins and stuff in games. Can you imagine when it unlocks it for people like ourselves, that then you go into this world and you actually care what people think of you, even though they don't even know who you are? It's crazy.
Do you know what? Have you watched Free Guy?
Nah.
Have you heard of it?
Nah, Ready Player One, someone popped in the chat. Ready Player One is a wicked one to look at as well, but nah. Tell me about it.
So Free Guy is literally, it's out now, I think, in the cinemas. But effectively, it's not exactly, it's a comedy semi, but it's like a lot of the stuff you're talking about is kind of about that. So it's about somebody who basically made this virtual reality game effectively, but like they put in, so you've got like the non-playable characters who are just like the Sims and the people, like, you know, when if you're playing GTA Online and you're not actually somebody playing it, they're just there to make the game tick. But it's effectively about like that AI having like an expandable life of its own, effectively. But it's just funny because even what you're saying about the way the way he becomes a real person is he takes the VR glasses off one of the characters that's playing on their computer in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy it. But it's a crazy world because a lot of this stuff like sounds, if you're not in the space, like it would sound crazy to a degree.
Yeah.
But outside of it, it's also a case of you need to understand the same way that like cryptocurrency would have sounded crazy. Like even, I mean, obviously we grew up like with like the internet would have sounded crazy. Like how old are you?
33.
Yeah, so you're like basically my age. Like we grew up on dial-up.
Dial-up, yeah.
Like if like dial-up to somebody that's 20, they have no concept of what dial-up is, and having to dial into the internet and having to like hope like you could be playing a game and trying to download like not even a song, like trying to download a picture, having to download a picture.
Bro. It was pain.
It was a different world, and then your mum would come on and take a phone call, and all of a sudden your internet's dropped off.
Yeah.
So like it's a completely different world. So like I think a lot of things that sound crazy because we don't realize, particularly with the internet era that we're in, how quickly things move.
Oh yeah, I think that this is a completely like the technology is an exponential growth anyway, right? And it's literally nothing anyone can do about it. And because of what's happened over the last 18 months, I think it's exposed the fact how far tech has come. So we've been talking for years about technology's taking is it going to take jobs? Is it going to take jobs? And then people haven't allowed it to take jobs yet. Well, in certain aspects it already has, but the jobs that we look at, like lawyers and accountants and stuff, people are still going to university studying for these different sort of jobs and studying to get a career out of that job. Now, depending on how long you describe or think a career is a different story. But the one thing that I usually use as an example is, are you familiar with Neuralink, Elon Musk's project?
No, what is it?
So it's like a chip that goes into your brain, and you can. So Neuralink, for you to have this chip in your brain when it happens, a robot does it, right? So because the precision is so precise that a robot inserts it into your brain through your skull, right? With like pinpoint precision. So the way I look at it is, if you're going to trust a robot to do something like that, then like if the surgeon's job is on the line, then whose isn't? That's the way I look at it, right? Now, yes, there's going to be regulation around it, but Elon himself said that artificial intelligence and machine learning should be regulated because it's dangerous. Now, I was talking to a seller the other day of a business. So I'm mainly focused on the biotech distribution space, but sometimes through my lead gen, I get pre-revenue companies come through. So a pre-revenue company come through, and it was quite interesting, so I stayed on the phone. And they were saying that they take blood, their concept is they take blood samples, and from the blood sample, with AI and machine learning, they can tell you what disease you're going to have, right? So then you can sort of look at it and try and prevent the disease from happening.
Or prepare a minimum and hopefully prevent that.
They're already backed by Microsoft, and they're based in Oxford University. So stuff like this fascinates me. And when you think of how far AI and machine learning are coming along, how long do we have until certain jobs are jobs and not careers anymore? That's the way I look at it. Like even through smart contracts, you're not going to you won't need a conveyancer anymore when we start using smart contracts to roll out in property conveyancing will be a thing of the past. Then even the title deeds and getting all that sorted, that's just going to be done through a smart contract. The government will take their tax automatically as well. And then when it comes to central bank digital currencies and tax automation, then you need to become a tax advisor. There's going to be no use for bookkeepers are pretty much gone anyway with zero and stuff. But my point is, where people looked at certain jobs which looked really sort of appealing as for career, some of these now may be jobs, but career wise is going to be different. Now, tech is going to take away many jobs as we know it quicker than we think now, I think, with what's happened. But I think that it's also going to open up a completely new paradigm of jobs as well, from developers and coding. And when you see blockchain, they need people. Like Facebook now are looking for 10,000 people in Europe to build a metaverse. So you're unlocking 10,000 new jobs.
Do you not hear like the paradox, like the way, like, because the idea of taking people out of jobs to get them to build like a metaverse for people to then live in, when it's like, I do hear a lot of it and I hear the excitement behind it, But do you not also see the, like, have you watched The Matrix?
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you've watched it, but I've just asked, like, you know, you've seen where this goes, right? You've seen
Yeah.
people in pods charging the world. I've just said, you know, I think sometimes there's a lot to be learnt from hindsight, and maybe The Matrix, you know, was a big film for a reason. That was
Yeah.
some sort of lesson from some time traveler to try to tell you, listen, you guys,
Yeah.
you lot don't pay attention. You lot are going to end up strapped in.
It's because it's so like someone says mind blowing, the metaverse, right? Because it is mind blowing. It's hard to get your head around because people think unless you're like a gamer, which because I'm not, I had to literally deep
Yeah, no,
dive
so
into this to.
I'm a serious. Can I be very honest with you? Can I have a confession moment with you, D? I don't know if I mentioned it very briefly yesterday for the first time, but I don't want to be a property developer. I want to be a full-time streamer. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Which
that's
game?
that's like Call of Duty Warzone.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've spent you £1 on a couple skins, you know, or to have my
Yeah.
guns
Yeah.
a certain color because I want to look fancy, and so I understand like how they call them microtransactions or like what's it like purposeless play effectively stuff you don't make money out of but you get enjoyment. And
Mm.
so the funny thing is when people talk to me about like what should they spend money on, and because in reality, like the value we put on, like you said, a pair of Gucci trainers or a Gucci hat, yeah, it comes from a little bit of, okay, it's a slightly better material, but the value comes out of the fact that an element of exclusivity
Yeah.
and a lot of the fact that you just genuinely enjoy it. So there's a few tangible things like, okay, gold has a value, but unless you're buying blocks of gold, if you're buying, you know, actually just jewelry, like the machining value in buying it is going to reduce it anyway to the point that it wasn't really a great investment in the first place. So I
Yeah.
think everything does come full circle down to how much you enjoy it. So although a lot of people would look at like the idea of the, what's it called, sorry? The what verse?
The metaverse. Yeah.
The metaverse as like, oh, how can you be spending money on something that's not real?
Yeah.
Like,
So what you mentioned there being a gamer, so you understand sort of the concept. Because I
yeah.
work I'm not like a gamer myself. For me, at first, I had to really deep dive in to get my head around it. But then all you're looking for is where the value comes from. And then when you see what other people are doing, like what you're saying now, one person may value their Gucci trainers. Some people may not. It might be like, look, I'd never spend down on Gucci trainers. I'm just going to buy Zara or H&M or whatever it is. But everyone's value of something is different. But with gaming, so you could talk to somebody on Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever the game of choice is, and someone could say, I spent this much money on my skin or this and that or
Yeah.
this many skins, and some people may be like, you crazy. But
You're
then that
mad.
same person may go out on the weekend and go and buy a bottle of Dom Perignon in the club, and the same person who's gaming may go, what are you doing? You crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
because it
so
comes down to what you get
yeah,
enjoyment out of. And this is what I always say in property and life and anything. If you're doing it because it makes you happy, as long as it's not hurting anybody else,
yeah,
do you like? Because I wouldn't understand. Like if we used to go back and look at, I don't know, our grandparents that might have been model train collectors that would spend thousands or whatever the equivalent was at the time on these model trains. We're looking at them like it's just silly little toys.
yeah,
But if it makes you happy, then do it. If you travel in the world where people are, oh, but after you get home, you've got nothing left. Like the experience has made you happy.
yeah,
And I think that is like as an overall lesson, because a lot of people potentially might not be that interested in everything that I'm finding it like mad interesting. So we can just chat afterwards. We'll just go offline and just chat. But I think some people maybe obviously that like a lot of like property based people are not kind of fully in that side of things. But I think in regards to just that as a lesson in terms of whatever you're doing, whatever the vocation is, like it has to make you happy.
yeah,
I think that's a massive lesson. It gets lost in a lot of investment opportunity stuff and a lot of whatever, because if it's like sometimes it can be a means to an end. The type of investment could be boring to you, but it makes the money to spend on something that you like. But there has to be that end goal of what do you want to do, because
yeah,
this money piled up. You could have been an early adopter in Bitcoin and had like just happened to have Bitcoin from 12 years ago and have ridiculous amount of money now. But if you don't do anything with it, just having Bitcoin isn't going to make you happy, even if you're a billionaire. It's what are you
no.
then going to do? Like, what's your end goal? Where does the happiness come from?
It also, you mentioned something good there, because this whole, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about the collapse of fiat currencies, and most sort of crypto maxis, which I'm a crypto bull, but a lot of crypto sort of maxis are in this sort of death of fiat currency buy Bitcoin, save the world sort of situation. But the thing people need to realize here is they need to coexist for us to continue, in my opinion, to grow as a world. They're going to have to coexist. And what Jack Mallers is doing with sort of bridging Bitcoin to fiat with the new with Strike, that's what we need, in my opinion. I think that all this sort of death of fiat currency, yeah, we know that fiat currencies have an average lifespan of 25 years, 100% failure rate. But the point is, right, that this whole global reset doesn't mean we need to see a depression and a big crisis. I'm not saying that we won't, but we don't need it. They could just restructure the debt, have a multi-reserve currency like the SDR with the IMF, and Bitcoin could potentially be a part of it or may not. They need to coexist. If you think the world's going to collapse and have a great reset, like I said it on my story a few weeks ago, you need to buy guns and tin food if you feel that we're going to have a financial collapse and the world's going to end. You don't want to be, Bitcoin ain't going to save you, mate, when someone's running up on you for your food.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, everything is like, and the great thing is like just having these conversations and getting, I think definitely off the back of today's conversation, I'm going to get some more like just full-time property people on board, because I think, everything goes full circle. Because even when we're having these great conversations around property, I also think diversification is really important. Mm. So yes, if you're like a property, but also look at what else does that mean? How could, when people are saying, oh, I've got this amount of money, what should I do with it? Like I've got £80,000. And obviously that question, when it's asked to me, is like, oh, how should I invest it in property? But if I was going to give my most like truthful and transparent answer, it wouldn't be to invest like £80,000 just in property. I would say, okay, maybe if it depends on what you want, like what your attitudes towards risk and reward. There's loads of things. I talk property because that's what I know the most about. But I would say speak to a load of different people. Also, if you've got something that you're good at as a starting point, before you invest in property or invest in crypto or invest in NFTs, invest in yourself, because you're going to get the best return out of investing in yourself than you're going to get out of any of these other things, because the return on investment effectively there is unlimited. Like if you were a great artist and you invest in becoming a better artist, or investing in your toolkit, or investing in somebody to help you, you're going to get way more money out of that than you would if you invested in property, if you invested in crypto, or invested in a load of other things. If you've got a business that's currently ticking along, but like you said, you buy businesses, and you buy businesses because you know the difference between a business with potential but that's not being run right, or that's not being invested in, is an amazing opportunity to make a load of money. And that's why a load of people that make money start investing in businesses, because your return on investment and turnaround time can be way better, or it can be way better in a property and way better than a lot of other investments. However, you have a lot more control over it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people put themselves in sort of one bracket of like, I'm an investor I'm a crypto investor, or a property investor, or a stock investor. People put themselves into one bracket, and I do believe you should specialize before generalizing, because I feel that otherwise you're going to be chasing all the shiny objects and again, nothing done. So I do believe you should. But also, as an investor as a whole, if you're investing in something, you've got that investor's mindset. So at the same time, I'm searching for the best ROI at all times. If I'm going to invest my hard-earned money into something, I'm looking for the best ROI that I can get, and at all times. So for me, it was that property is something that is an asset that I'd always like to have, because I feel that through historical data, it's always outperformed, it's always done well, and it's always generally gone up in a straight line. Not always, if you look at history, but if you look completely at today,
if you go further enough out and look at it, it's pretty straight. Like there's
it's pretty straight. So as soon as the mortgage came in, it was a great investment, right? As soon as the mortgage came in as an actual product and we utilized it, it became a great investment, because it turned into, we've been going through a very sort of inflationary environment for a very long time. So generally assets always go up, right? So property is something I always want to have, and I'll always invest in just because of what it is. But then I'm also looking for the best ROI. So I remember talking about people looking at and understanding different things. I remember back in March last year, I knew the halving was coming up in May. Based on historical data, I knew Bitcoin was going to perform pretty well. The whole crypto market was pretty much destined to do pretty good, right? Based on history. I remember doing a presentation for basically a bunch of property investors at the time. I felt like I was looked at like I had a bit of a tinfoil hat on. And that wasn't because, I'm no crypto expert or nothing. It was just me as an investor looking at where I was going to get the best ROI. So the reason why I stopped investing just before the sort of lockdowns, or actually the last property I bought was last April at an online auction. So it was in lockdown, but before that I was quite active. And then, so yeah, for me, it was like, where am I going to get the best ROI? And at the time, yeah, property has done amazing over the past 18 months because of this inflationary environment we've been in, and all the money printing and all the incentives that has been put in place, loads of pent-up demand, but it still hasn't outperformed crypto. And that's not saying that you can't get great returns in property, and I wouldn't say go into crypto blind and be like, well, because that's going to get best ROI, chuck the kitchen sink at it. I'm not saying that. You should be doing what you know, you understand, right? But for me, that was my time to be like, right, let's dive in to see what this is even deeper about and across the different projects. But for me, crypto and buying businesses generate better ROI than property will. So for me, I'd rather benefit from my returns and my gains in both of those, and then whatever's left over, I'll invest in assets like property and like all the different assets I choose to invest in, which, you know, used to be very diverse across different asset classes, and I still am quite diverse, but I'm more focused on my sort of end goal now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So I think that kind of segues nice. So where can people find you if people want to talk to you in more detail? Because this will also be out on like the podcast or on like Spotify or Amazon. So if you actually spell out and let people know where they can find you as well.
Mainly just Insta, really. Is at DWE, so D_Ludlow, so DWE_LUDLOW. That's the best place. If you've got any questions, just pop them in there.
And they can find the 5 a.m. club through there as well, or that's got its own section?
Yeah, it's in my links in my bio, but my 5 a.m. club is jointhefivamclub.co.uk. All the information's on there. Again, if you do have any questions, then just ping me a DM on Instagram.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I appreciate you coming on, like a nice random day as well that we managed to get you on that. Again, if anyone's got any questions, make sure you go follow D. He's doing a lot of great stuff. I know I'm going to be catching up. I don't know if you know me, you look at my eyes already, like I'm tired as it is. So I don't know about 5 a.m., but if you let me sneak in a little bit late, like after class, and I'll see what I can learn from you.
Yeah. Cool. Right, it's good talking to you, mate.
Yeah, no, you too, bro. Take care. See you soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.